Yo, 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 we are back with another episode of Leaf with the Legends podcast. Today, I'm joined by Wisconsin legend, a social architect, a bridge lighter, a TEDx speaker, and an exceptional mid-range jump shooter. I'm joined by my boy, man, Ian Abston, man. Thanks for joining the podcast.
I am so glad I got mid-range in there. Mid-range architect, maybe we can marry a couple. That makes me
Let's do
happy.
that. There we go. There we go, man. How you feeling, bro?
I'm great. I'm great. It's beautiful outside. My knees are sore. I don't know if you got my retirement notice. It was all over ESPN, but I'm out on hoops now for a while. So, we'll see what other opportunities are out there for me on Saturday mornings.
I hear you. I hear you. Got to get you back on those Saturday morning runs for sure, for sure. So growing up, man, you're from Elkhart Lake. We just talked briefly about hoops. Like, was how was your childhood? Sports and just being around, and what type of things did you get into at an early age?
So if people that know Elkhart Lake, you might know it for the racetrack. You might know it for Ostoff. The Elkhart Lake you know now is not what the Elkhart Lake I grew up in. So there's Ostoff is brand new. It was a Girl Scout camp when I was young. So now everybody in Elkhart Lake, you're in the hospitality business. It's a town of 1,000 that goes to 100,000 for race weekends. But where I grew up, it was kind of in the country of Elkhart Lake, only 3 miles outside of town. But also a world of difference when you're young, and that's a lot of hills to bike up. So it was a lot of growing up with a stick. I have a little brother, and we had woods everywhere, so we were doing a lot of running around. It was a creative childhood to say the least. And now that I've got a kid of my own, I'm realizing some of the crap your parents have you do. We had this long gravel driveway, and whenever you're being an asshole, you'd be like, "Go! You got to shovel the driveway." What? We got to rake the driveway. We just make stuff up, and now I have like a 3-year-old of my own. I can see this and why it works. But with the sport I loved was basketball the most, and it's one of those things that's kind of stuck with me through Elkhart Lake to Milwaukee. I'm not a golfer. I don't have the patience for it, but the network that a lot of people get through golfing, I've been fortunate enough to meet a bunch of your friends through it, and it's just a different way and a different style to get people to know one another. And when I was growing up in 200 kids in our whole high school, 50 in my graduating class. So you're playing every sport and you thought you were really good. And then you graduate and go to college and you play some intramurals and you're the worst guy there in the last pick. And you're like, whoa, I was, a quarterback in Elkhart Lake and I was like an athlete. And now I'm questioning if I'm even right-handed anymore after comparing myself to everybody else. But it was great upbringing. uh great. You got to be creative, and I think what's kind of grabbed the creativity there and brought that to a little slice of Milwaukee as
I
well.
love it. I love it. I love it, man. So we met back in like 2012 ish. When Yes was just starting. You had just started Milwaukee. We had our kind of a demographic and kind of events that we threw, and then you did as well. And what one of the ones that we collaborated on was the Urban Island Beach Party. So, like, what made you want to throw like dope events and bring people together?
What made you want to throw dope events and bring people together? I I saw what you guys are doing. I'm like, we got to giddy up on this. These guys are gonna catch us. When we started Milwaukee, how long ago? But it hit a maybe a nerve where the people wanted to just do cool stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and the networking always had to have like a sponsor, a speaker. You always had to like pretend, and that just wasn't the vibe we had or the vibe you had. And we were always looking to collaborate and grow. And pretty soon we ran out of space. Right? You have 300 people coming, that limits you to places you can go. And then we
Yep.
started getting into, what was it? Something about West Wisconsin Avenue that we got pulled into, the mayor and some like downtown business owners. And we pitched the idea of like a block party and like a night market, and a variety of different things. And we ended up doing the night market, long story short. And it opened the door to a lot of rooms we didn't belong in. Remember the word like millennials was really,
Yep.
really popping, and everybody wanted a millennial. So that's what got us started on the bigger events. Is we kind of outgrew some of the bars and restaurants. It wasn't anything crazy, just socializing and live music. and then allowed us to do the night market. And people kind of saw what we saw and maybe each other is, well, look at the economic impact of when you get people together and look at a space and, you kind of view the, like, you're a private club without a clubhouse, and you can always take it around you with the city with you. And I think that's how the night market started. And then the next one was the Urban Island Beach Party. You end up, so many people in Milwaukee have never even been there to Lakeshore State Park.
Man, it's
It's
such a
cool that a lot
gem.
of people don't even know it. It's such a gem. You're out there running, you get lost, you're on a bike, and you're seeing, the coolest view. And you look back and you're like, wow, that's our skyline. That's awesome. Yeah, it's one of those places you look at and you're like, well, what if? It's one of those what if spots. Wouldn't it be cool to get a bunch of people here and have them experience Milwaukee, look at the skyline for the 50th time or the first time? And I think that's when you and I were like, hey, you want to do something together? And I don't know if you were there or not, but it was like 3 days ahead of time we did a site check, and that's when we realized there was no running water or electricity on the island. We
We
hadn't
did,
thought
yeah,
about
yeah,
that
yeah, yeah.
before. Yeah. And we're like, oh yeah, we should think. Did think people could hold it for 4 hours, or like have a quick short walk back to Discovery World? Yeah, and I think our generation is a little bit more like just build a bigger umbrella, fit as many people under it, and like we could have been, I don't know, competing companies maybe. If we could, either of us could have sat down at that time and explained what we actually did or didn't do for work or a living.
Yep,
But I think our generation is more collaborative, and I think the first time we talked, it was like, yeah, I'm in. Let's do that.
yep. No, for sure. And every event, we'll get to home, but like every event that I've, participated in that you hosted or been a part of, it's always an experience, right? So like, for instance, when we took a group of entrepreneurs and business leaders from Milwaukee to Madison, we made a stop at a farm and like fed like goats and shit. So like it's always something, that's kind of out of the norm that you won't necessarily expect. So like, where does that creativity come from? And you like, oh yeah, I want to sprinkle this into this type of event.
You're dropping knowledge on the Ixonia petting zoo to your listeners. You
There we
should put
go.
that behind a subscription paywall, man. That's on your next journey to Madison. Hit the Ixonia exit petting zoo. I forget what the name of that thing is. I don't. It's because in maybe this is like this in other cities as well, or maybe not. But there's not a lot of creativity in business. It's
Mm,
speaker, table of 10, corporate spot the table towards the front. You get a logo there and maybe a gift bag, and the rest towards the back. And it's 10 minutes of speaking, and then intros and sponsor, and then a video, and then a Q&A or something. And what are the things that actually like build memories and what's going to make you tell someone else about it?
mm,
So all of those are the moments you're like, you see something weird and you write it down, and you try and think of what is the weirdest shit I could do, and my friends would go along with it. And you find out actually later it's not that big of a risk. It's more like that's actually the meat of it. Something that was so weird that I'm not going to remember a networking event, but I'll remember a networking event if 10 people put their name tag on my back before I leave without me noticing it. That's fun. Or, there's a random karaoke thing that busts out like you guys did at our last like secret event. So
yep.
I'm scared to hang out with you after like 6 p.m. You just bring out all your skills, and I'm like, I'm gonna be in the corner. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. It's the creativity. It's like I'm not from Milwaukee. So I look at things and I'm just like, well, what if?
Mhm.
But if I was doing this back home, like those things are always the way they are. And I don't have the creativity to challenge them. But in Milwaukee, I think it's a little bit more of an open canvas. And the older you get, the more you realize most rules, they're not actually rules. You can kind of do things no one's just asked before, or the social norms aren't even social norms. They just haven't been pushed. And you're willing to do things like sit on a bus on an assigned seat in your 40s, and there's a random squirt gun under your chair or something stupid that and then you try and explain to your boss that this was actually a networking event and actually the most meaningful networking experience you may have ever had. And he's like, yeah, tell me about it. Well, it all started when someone squirted me in the ear, when Tom Paprocki, squirted me right in the ear. So Yeah, it's just you just try and make things fun, and I think that's the same. Like you guys do the same. Like don't take life so seriously.
For sure. For sure. For sure. Absolutely, man. No, and it's always something. You know what I mean? Like you think you might know, you think you might have a little intel, but then like it's always going to be another, another spin on it. But it's always, in good fun and always, productive, at the end of the day. So back in
Mm,
2016, you had the opportunity to do a TEDx speech. So talk a little bit about that experience and how you were able to, challenge the status quo of society on millennials at that time.
yeah, that's a hell of an intro for that one. At that point, just left Milwaukee, had really no idea what I wanted to do. And if you're an entrepreneur and you have so much, or any business, you're on a business and I didn't realize how much your personal identity is wrapped up in wherever you work. And I felt that tremendously at the time. So I was kind of swimming a little bit lost. And I had a friend, Greg from Fargo. He's in my phone as Fargo Greg. And he runs the TEDx out there and just a great, I don't even know how I met Greg, just weird energies, weird souls aligned. He was out here for something. We met him and he had known what I did with Milwaukee and he had come to one of the night markets and he was like, we should do some of that there, invited me to speak. And I remember uh, leading up to it, they have speaking coaches for you. If you've ever like seen that dot, just the red dot and Fargo. The thing about Fargo it is they spend the most, I think, per speaker on their TEDx's because it's Fargo, and I think there's at the time now they're growing considerably, but at the time it was like the thing they had, so it was easy to get sponsors for it. So they spend an incredible amount on like the lighting and the production, and I'm slowly finding this out more and more as like I continue to get calls from the speakers and the speech writers and the slide projector creators like, hey, we don't have your stuff in yet. And all of a sudden, like a week out, I'm like, wow, this is I have to really pay attention for this speech. And I'm kind of a procrastinator. And I remember sweating profusely a week in and leaning into Matt Sablejack hard because you're second guessing yourself. I don't even know if I landed whatever I was talking about there, but it pretty quickly, thanks to YouTube algorithms, went up pretty tightly. And I realized at the time, like everything we're doing in Milwaukee here, all the experiments, Milwaukee was kind of our little petri dish, but it was the messaging and the key learnings. What we did was actually kind of uniform to our generation growing up in each city. And I don't know who coined the term Oregon Trail millennials, but I hadn't seen it before my speech, and I saw it a lot after. So I'll take official credit unless someone else beat me to it. Then I'll take unofficial credit. I'll go that way. But I remember
Love it.
um, the day after Trump did something big. I remember what it was. He might have become the nominee or something. So there's me in the Fargo Herald or something like that. My mom has the paper probably, but it's Donald Trump's head and then my head next to a red dot. And I was like, oh, there you go. We made it now. That was good. Great times, Fargo.
That's dope. That's dope. No, that's a hell of an accomplishment though, to be to be invited, to be a TEDx speaker and to nail it. I've watched it multiple times and I think that, you did, get your point across and, you portrayed, Milwaukee and, the millennials here, in a very positive light. So that was dope. So, just
I
let's
was
fast
wearing my
forward.
finest Milwaukee home shirt.
That too. Yeah, absolutely. For sure. And the shoe game was on point too. You had on some nice boots.
Man, that means so much coming from you. It means a lot, man.
For sure, for sure. Hey, so let's fast forward just a little. Well, I guess a lot of bit. Let's fast forward to the Light The Hoan project. So talk about that and that idea and kind of what all that project entails, and from the fundraising to the implementation to programming to partnerships and events.
Well, go back. I think, can I go to the impetus of that through Hone
Oh,
and
for
how,
sure,
because they're kind of married.
absolutely.
So there's a private group you and I are part of called the HOAN Group. And after post Milwaukee, one of the things I accidentally fell into was public speaking, thanks to that TED talk. Lonely game, by the way. I don't love it because you get off the stage and I like the team. You don't. I see the way you shoot. You don't need a team. You just chuck, man. You're a solo solo man. You can speak all day. Not me though. I like to screen, set picks, do the dirty work, get some rebounds. So I didn't love the public speaking, so I was doing that. And then what I really noticed, what I needed in Milwaukee, I had 1,000 relationships all an inch deep because you're having 20-second conversations with people because you're in the event game. So what we craved was depth of relationships. So we started this thing called, we wanted to start what was called the HOAN Group, which was a curated group of like a business leadership group, but the way you and I would script it. And I think you've been in it for a long time now. So I think you've got your own take on this, but wanting to call the group the HOAN Group, wanted to name it that because to me, the bridge, not being from here, symbolized connectivity, bridging relationships, bridging gaps, bridging generations, bridging communities. Love that. And our lawyer at the time said, you love the term, but there's something called the HOAN Foundation. If you want to use the HOAN Group, technically you could, but go get the okay. So it turned out it was led by the grandson of Daniel Hoan, the last sewer socialist mayor in Milwaukee. And Dan Steininger is his grandson. Dan Steininger at the time ran Biz Starts. And he run the Daniel Hoan Foundation. And he said, yeah, we'd love for you to use my grandfather's namesake. And on our way out, he said, and hey, if you kids ever get organized and want to do something big, you should think of this. And he slid across a Milwaukee magazine with kind of a very early stage photo of what the Hoan Bridge could have looked like lit. And apparently it was a government project that was supposed to get done. And then as Scott Walker was preparing to run for governor, he pulled it out of the budget, standard thing to do before you go to front of Iowa. So politics aside, that money got taken out, but the idea was there. And there were some people at the DOT that had put a lot of work into it. And it didn't go away. And Michael Hostad was in that meeting with me and he didn't let it go away. And he kept bugging me about it. And like, last thing I need is another civic project that, doesn't pay anything. But, and then 2 months ago afterwards, we're watching ESPN, the first ESPN Bucks game, because we were so bad for so long. And they wanted to showcase this little guy that was just coming up named Giannis, and no one could even pronounce his name right. And it was they were doing the left to right panoramic on Milwaukee, the city, and NM was not even built at that time. Coming to you live from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And as they stopped on the city, it was in the Harbor District, and just the ugliest part of the city. It was over the Hoan Bridge, and it was dark. And there was no boats in the water because it was winter. And that was the lasting view for millions and millions, maybe tens of millions of viewers on Milwaukee. And that was the moment that I'm like, oh, I get it now. So that's where it started. And it kind of took off from there. I don't know if that was too long of a description, but that led to like a 4-year journey.
No. That was good. That was good. So I guess we can go more in depth as to, into, the HOAN Group itself. So obviously you got Light The Hoan, and then you got the HOAN Group. So you touch briefly on, the origin of the HOAN Group. So I guess we can kind of touch more on that and, kind of dive deeper into, the programming behind it and, what we do and the number of business leaders that are, that make up the group.
Yeah. Because I'm sick of hearing myself. What is it to you? Which is my favorite, because as 160 people in the group and I get 160 answers of what it is and why people give a shit. So why are you still answering those in emails after 8 years now?
Well, it's been 5.5, but no, I mean, it's the HOAN Group to me is it's a group full of like-minded business leaders that want to see the connectivity between Milwaukee and Madison and grow the region, so that we can become the area that we know that we can be, so that when people look at relocation or brain drain, leaving out, like, we know that we can keep talent here because we have, amazing real estate, we have amazing entrepreneurs, we have amazing lawyers, we have amazing, doctors, whatever the case may be. But we have all that talent here, and we just need to figure out a way. And I think that's why you're so great at what you do, and being at the helm of the HOAN Group is you're able to bring together all of those different professional background. And I was speaking with someone at the early morning coffee last week, and basically it's like the HOAN Group, and I hate to kind of use this word, but it humanizes a lot of these leaders that you see and that you read about and that you see on the news, you read about in the paper, but you get to experience like intimate settings with them, and you're like, oh, like they go through the same stuff that I go through, or they had some of the same successes that I've had, but you never would know just off of the surface level. So I guess the long-winded answer for me is that the HOAN Group really like connects a number of different business leaders through Madison, Milwaukee that are ultimately doing fabulous stuff to lift up our region.
And you nailed it. That's yep, perfect. It's perfect. I think for I I love hearing that because everybody's got a different experience through it, but there's always a common thread that you pull, which is there's a lot, successful people. We all know there's a lot of successful people, but there's a lot of, are you successful? And that can mean a variety of things, right? It's not always financial, but do you give a shit? Are you
Yep.
actually donating time and trying to shape to
Yep.
make things better? And it doesn't always include like something you're directly involved in. It can be thoughtfully connecting someone to something that like, oh, it's all a relationship game. I
Yep.
solve problems through relationships. I am never going to be the smartest guy or girl in any room, but I see the world in like people maps, and I solve problems through that network of people. And I really love connecting people. It actually, there's a couple like yourself, you do this, Omar, Andy Noonamaker, Eric Kennedy, and Zizzo. When I think about some people that are always like, do you know so and so? And then they follow up with it, and that stuff. That stuff actually is like this. It creates like a fabric, an ecosystem, whatever it might be. But we're all in our specific lanes. Whether it's, hey, you hoop, all right, the hoopers, and you're a lawyer. The hoopers, the lawyers, and the people in whatever part of the city you're from. And the chances of you connecting with, the older you get, the harder it is to connect with people outside of your passions or direct like business unit, if you will.
Yep.
So I love the group because it's people that give a shit. They're all passionate about making Milwaukee or Madison better. And I think what I've realized over time is the secret to making Milwaukee better is through Madison. Those two, the largest two metros in the state, have to start getting along, collaborating, working together. Because when two cities start approaching problems together, now you've got an opportunity at transformative solutions. And that can also mean like federal dollars unlocked because they're watching two communities work together on one solution. Historically, we don't do that. It's always, hey, we've got this federal dollars. All right, Milwaukee applies one, Madison applies one. What was the ecosystem one that we just got, 50 million for? That was a great combined joint effort around the state. Good to see stuff like that. But I think you hit it on the head where it humanizes you. We're all walking into the room and we're supposed to be leaders, and you've got a team and you're supposed to come in there with all the answers. And sometimes HOAN is like therapy, just like,
Yep.
man, I don't have all the answers, but you got to pretend. And sometimes it's a bunch of alpha mindset people sitting down, and we've got some wild shit happening in the group right now, right? Our buddy lost an arm. Our friend lost her husband. Another friend's got a daughter who's sick, and the journey to leadership. When you're younger, you think it looks like this, and there's a graph that makes it look like this. And it's good to know people here so you can help them recover, and good to know when they're here so you can help cheer for them for their successes as well. And just the human part of life that I think we always forget at those networking events. So that's what it does for me. And I think tagline is change happens at the speed of trust. And that's what we try and bring to it all times.
Absolutely, man. And I think that, I got to give HOAN, its props because I joined, January of 2019. So, that first year, it was great. I was getting my feet wet, meeting a lot of people and whatnot. But then, once the pandemic hit, I think what really like the pandemic really elevated the quality of programming that we do within the group. So, yeah, we were doing some things here and there, but it was more so, happy hours, dinners, this. But then once the pandemic hit, people were on Zoom calls, and now then it was like, okay, let's really talk about, social injustice. Let's really talk about, some, race issues. Let's talk about DE and I. So I think like it really showed that okay, this isn't just another boys club or another social club or whatever. This is something that has some intentionality and that, like you said earlier, like that really gives a shit about not only the people in the group, but the people that the group serves and the area that the group serves. So,
Mm-hmm.
and it just shows, over the last, 5.5 years that I've been a part of it, like it just continues to grow and you just tell about a quality of members, and it goes back to that saying, attitude reflects leadership, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
just kudos
Yeah.
to you and your team.
Well, thanks. That means a lot, man. I think the that's only 5.5 years for you. That's right, because we actually wanted your brother in the group. We tried him for 2.5 years. He wouldn't. It's
That was a good one. That
it's
was a good
funny
one.
how thanks. I think actually we were trying to send him an email, and we got you guys mixed up, and we're like, oh, whatever, we'll take him. We'll take him. He can hoop. It's funny. I noticed during the pandemic, during the you saw it was a lot of people in the HOAN Group. So many white people. How well do you know black people, brown people that you can call? Who's the person you're going to call when George Floyd happened?
Hmm.
And I remember hearing, because so many people in the HOAN Group were the one for 10 other white people when they were like, oh man, let me know what I can do for you. And I was watching and witnessing myself understand the social dynamics, but also hearing other people. And I remember Denise Thomas. Denise Thomas was the one for 45 people. And it was people trying to understand a situation and understand social norms, but it also helped me understand, wow, people are the importance of the group and the importance of just like where we are in our lives right now, because there were a bunch of people we could have in-depth conversations with at that time, and we could go there pretty quickly.
Hmm.
And yeah, it was a sensitive time for a lot of people, but it allowed everyone, I think, to understand everybody's worlds a lot better and accelerate a lot of those conversations. Um, we had nothing to do. We were all just sitting around during a pandemic, and we were able to hear actual thoughts and feelings and emotions of what it was like going through like that world for you. And I remember having conversations about Denise as well, and EJ and everybody else, and it helped a lot of us, I think, at that time just understand humanizing everybody.
Absolutely, no, 100%, 100%. So with home, there's a offset, and most recently you started, a program, a leadership development program called 448. Can you kind of talk a little bit about that program and what the goal and the mission is for that?
Um, we noted, okay, HOAN 160 members, 100 in Milwaukee, 60 in Madison. After a while, I kept getting introduced to really incredible people. And I noticed there was nothing for them in the city to join, where they were all together. It was very fragmented, right? There's a lawyers association. There's this thing over
Yeah.
here, but there wasn't a good soup, if you will. And we accidentally our own glass ceiling with HOAN Group. You couldn't get in because it's full. There's a line. We keep it in intimate intentionally, because we want depth and not width there. So we realized with Forward 48, we need to create a talent pipeline, and you do this work as well, and you've done this work with entrepreneurs, et cetera, et cetera. And how we kind of view this is we need to create that soup so the entrepreneur can find their first 10 customers, their a lawyer friend, people that are outside of the entrepreneur industries that you can do a wide base. We just realized in Milwaukee and frankly many other cities, there's been leadership programs that have gotten stale over the years, and they just kept them going. And every once in a while, those have to get innovated. So you've done this, and we went and did this, and we had many conversations with you actually on, hey, how would you do this? How would you scale? And you had suggestions on Green Bay and other places, which was very helpful. But we noticed what it is very valuable for us to have access to younger people just as much as they want access to us, because we have to be aware of what the trends are, who's coming up. There's board seats that need to be filled. You got to know people to raise their hand and tag in. So what we wanted originally was to create like the next kind of a bench for HOAN, which turned into met with Mike Lovell, and he said, here's some credits at Marquette, and he really helped shape this thing. And then Rotary gave us some free access into Rotary, and before we knew it, we kind of had this pipeline thing going, and it expanded past Milwaukee, and now it's kind of Milwaukee, Madison, Kenosha, New North area, and it is built to connect the best people around the age of 25, 35 and get them actually connected. So it's kind of miniature HOAN, if you will. We get great, 6 to 8 speakers. They're the faculty that they get to hear from, and do private dinners with groups along the way. So really take all of the knowledge from today's leaders and bring it in, but also what they don't know they're getting, which we kind of hit them over the head with later, is you're now part of an alumni, and this is a group of your peers. And what you really wanted on those speakers, the value you want to get out of this, the value is in the network you're going to build. So many people go to conferences. What'd you learn? Well, I met some guy at the hotel bar, and he changed it. I made a deal out of that. The conference, it's not about what you learn. It's maybe a nugget or two from that, but man, the type of people that are attracted to the Forward 48 in the groups you run, when you get that group together, that's interesting. And I'm learning a lot from that group. And I thought I knew what the alumni programming was going to look like, and they've turned it on their head, and I couldn't be happier. So we now have 450 alumni in that group, and now we're starting to fill parks. There's board seats we're trying to fill. There's a lot of open, empty community service opportunities in this town. Some are appointed by the mayor, the county executive. Some are just open. They don't sound sexy. Everybody wants to be in the Summerfest board, the baseball board, but like the sewer district needs people. And that is a very, very effective position. And we got to start getting some people in there that know what the internet is, and are quick to respond and represent our generation a little bit more. So if we can have a small hand in elevating a younger demographic into leadership opportunities, that's what that's all about.
So with all the talent in our region, like how can we further combat the brain drain? You see so many people going to the coast, going to Austin, going to Houston, Charlotte, wherever. So like, what are some things that we can continue to do, or new innovations that we can implement?
That's a tough question, man, because we've had this over cocktails a time or two, and I'm not going to answer it that way. But I will say, there's two way, right? Brain drain specifically. It's all about population. How do you increase population? People either have to stay here or move here. It's easier to get people to stay here, and we don't focus on retention well here. So to grow population, to keep the smart young people here, you have to listen to them. You have to put them in a table around you and listen to their ideas. If we don't, we are going to continue to build churches. We'll throw on more a symphony building. I love the symphony, but it's going to have to get reinvented to be home to our generation. It's the largest civic lift. You've got to meet. A city has to build around its future, and you have to listen to the future to do that. And we got to stop copying other cities. We're going to be the tech hub and pull someone in who's a consultant from Austin. Nope. I've now been here long enough to see 3 consultants roll into town who are going to teach us the ways of another community. How we're going to do it is you listen to the young people here that are still considering where they want to live,
Yeah.
and help them shape Milwaukee today. That is the best way to prevent brain drain. And when you start doing that, people talk and people talk. And that's why we're losing so many great, smart young people to Atlanta, because people say, hey, you should come here. You should move to Chicago. There's great opportunities here. When people start saying, hey, they're listening here in Milwaukee and you should really give this a try, that works. So I'd love to see more of an implementation to the younger minds. Also, just demographics show when you're 40 or over, the chance of you leaving a city are low, unless it's a dream job or something to do with your spouse. When people want to live in a city under the age of 40, they're moving for vibrancy because they think it's cool, because they can meet a mate, because they can meet friends. That's how we have to transport yourself into what it's like to be 23, 24, 26, making life decisions again. And you stay in a city because you like the city, but it's actually has a lot to do with, have we given you a platform to meet the people? Could you find your people while you're here? And I think that's why you and I get along so well. I mean, I shut you down on the court, so that's why we get along. I get to talk that. Remove the jumper, you go left, I just take you down. So that gives me confidence. And I think that's the way that we work well together. It's collaboration in the way we think the same about the city, different parts of it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, for sure. And I think the part about, reaching back to the younger generation, that's key. That's key. Because I can see it now. There's a changing of the guard. You can see it in some of these positions of power, powers that be. So, Milwaukee is on the up and up, and with organizations like HOAN and with 448 and Yes and other organizations, I think that we can continue to keep our homegrown talent and continue to make Milwaukee, the dope city that we know that it is. So with everything
Yeah.
that
Well,
you have,
what do
oh no,
you
go ahead, go
what
ahead, go
would
ahead.
you answer that on?
I mean,
How would you
I'm
answer
right.
that? Like, is that a
Yeah, I'm right on par. I'm right on par with you with that. As far as like reaching back to the younger generation. I mean, because I know it's got to be something that's like enticing, and I think if we can show that it's here, then we have to. It's our job to provide that access and exposure, to different opportunities. So, for instance, with our STEAM programming, like we're not only teaching the students about the latest and greatest technologies, but we're showing them how they can, make money here in the city. Whether that's like teaching them about
Mhm.
drones and teaching them about each part of the drone, but then saying, okay, do you know that you can get paid to survey real estate, to do roofs, for the DOT with accident reconstructions. So giving them the opportunity and the information, and that, I mean, that's been Yes's mission, from the start, is to mobilize resources. So whatever that comes, if that's in the form of new information, new programming, new technology, we want to make sure that we're being that vehicle that provides that, for the demographic, because we've been in so many different settings and we see the disparities. So like, for instance, we were in one school and this particular school hadn't even touched a 3D printer, and they were like, just looked like we were just, we brought one in,
Mhm.
and they were like, wow. And another school, we brought it in and they were like, oh, you guys didn't need to bring it in. We have five in the back of it, and in the back of our classroom. So you just see the disparities because they're just not exposed to it. So once we can, reach back and like show them like, hey, this is possible here in Milwaukee. And that way, as they continue to, grow, and get older and grow within their respective, professions, I think it's just more reason for them to want to stay here, where they can see, okay, this is some place where I can, live, work, play, raise a family and make a decent living. So I think it's just all about, giving them that opportunity,
Mhm.
that exposure, and ultimately that confidence too, to where it's like, hey, this is possible. You don't need to go to the coast. You don't need to go down to Texas. You don't need to go, down south anywhere. Like you can do that and be successful here in Milwaukee. So I think, like we gotta lean in and really take the advice of our younger generation.
And you teach it in a way you're relatable because you're younger.
Mm-hmm.
You coach a lot of these guys. I remember the only thing I wanted to do until I was like a sophomore in high school was I wanted to be a gym teacher because it was the only thing in school I related to that seemed even mildly fun. So when you
Yeah,
guys are bringing
yeah,
that kind of programming into schools, it gets it to go off. But I mean, I know how much you guys struggled to make it here, though, right? Why is it that hard, right? There's universities going out of business because they're not changing anything, and you guys have an incredible, like, whether it's MPS or different ages, you guys have an incredible model. Um, we should be accelerating great ideas to be implemented into our community a little bit faster, and I hope so. If you were a person with not as much gusto as you had, and you and your brother with enough stick-to-itiveness, you'd have quit long ago. But you guys are extra special, and it kind of you've been able to accelerate it and stick to it. But there's probably a bunch of entrepreneurs that would have left along the way to pursue different options in other cities.
absolutely. And I'm not going to sit up here and say I haven't, thought about, leaving as well. But it's that, and I've said it before, but like to be a successful entrepreneur, you got to be kind of crazy. Like you got to have a little, like something has to be a little off with you because, and for me, growing up in Milwaukee and then, as becoming older, reading all the negative stats, the worst place, to raise a, black family, 53206 is the most, incarcerated, zip code for African American men. So it's just like you see all of these things that would say, get the hell out. But for me, just being a competitor that I am, I'm like, oh no, I'm gonna show you. Like I'm gonna prove it to you that not only I can be successful, but I can bring the next generation up and help them to be successful as well in a city that you're saying is so bad. And don't get me wrong, we have our faults, but like in order for us to continue to be successful in this city, like why not? Like why not? Why not take on that challenge? Head on.
It is you're right. It's a shapeable city and it's got its issues. And I think there's a certain type of person that enjoys that challenge. And we've all had those moments where you're like, fuck it. You know what I could do if I was doing this in Charlotte or wherever and I was getting my ass kicked, at least I'm doing it in the sunshine or whatever. I had a month ago, I got my car stolen and I hadn't said anything about it, right? You had my first 2 days. I was like, man, I should post. Nope. It just happens. It's part of, we are fortunate and lucky to live where we live. I wouldn't change it for anything. And every once in a while shit happens. And I got to meet some great people along the way, some insurance people too. Right. All the fun stuff. But hey, it's the city. We get to help make it better. So I think there's something that attracts that mentality. And we're starting to see that type of person that has stuck it through now our age, and we now know each other well, and those opportunities are coming to our friends. And when the opportunities come to your friends, they are looking to their network for solutions and other things as well. So I think it's going to be a unique time in the city the next couple of years. It'll be fun.
Man, I love it. I love it. So with everything that you got going on, Ian, like what advice would you give other entrepreneurs and business leaders to help maintain like a sane mental and physical health?
Should have prepped me on that one. I'd have read a book maybe and got ready for it. Have you ever, is that the question you ask everybody to end?
No. This was catered specifically for you.
This is sucks to hold the mirror. I got to be honest. I'm in a moment right now with a 3.5-year-old where I can't say I am nailing it. I am not nailing it. I am probably the most out of shape I've been in a while. But it's because I'm sacrificing maybe the physical part for a lot of the family time. So
Oh yeah.
the family, the heart is full, and so is the belly at the moment. But here's it all. A couple things. One, find something. I loved basketball and met people through basketball. So find something that an outlet where you can be healthy and meet other people that have that same interest, whatever it might be. Pickleball is huge right now. We got to hoop a lot. I met lifelong friends and, got to watch a championship, from Jabari's because of
Yeah.
some great friendships. Two, don't like build the network before you need the network. I see
Mm.
so many people just that guy's not in supply chain. I want to be in supply chain. Nope. Just hang out with people, grow that. I know that thing after work today has nothing to do with anything you have professionally, but guess what? Chances are 10 years, you're going to be working at a company that doesn't exist for a job that doesn't exist and a title we're using technology that doesn't exist. So just, it's the network, go build the network. And as I'm getting older right now, I'm going through the fresh stage of like saying no a lot to
Hmm.
things, of like time sucks, identifying those. Here's the fun thing: stretch every morning for 15 minutes, baby. Get those knees fresh. But I'd say vulnerability is actually the big one. As I've gotten older, I keep saying no, meaning I can spend more time with people I care about, and some of that is family, some of that is tight friends. But they're my tight friends because I've experienced the highs and lows, the ups and downs. And you are going to you'll see that same person in the business journal, and you'll see this, and I know what's really happening, and we're all human. And I think me being there for them and them being able to be there for me at our moments of success and failure, that's kind of a treat. And as I'm getting a little bit older and seeing the way my parents are acting with my kid, there are a few things that bring a smile to my face, and like the family. And those aren't all. I didn't always appreciate that. So it's balance. And if you have it figured out, you tell me, because I'll listen to that podcast all day.
I got you. I got you. No, I'm still trying to. Hey, so when I ask that question, I'm listening myself because you always can get better. Absolutely, you always can get better for sure, for sure. All right, so we're coming down the home stretch, and we got five. Well, I won't say five rapid fire. We got four rapid fire questions, and then we got the fifth one is going to be a top five question. So that probably won't be as rapid. You ready?
Yep.
All right. First one. Bucks and six or go pack go.
Bucks and six.
All
God, that
right.
was legendary. We got to be there for that one. That city was electric for Bucks and
It
six.
was.
Incredible.
It was for sure. For sure. Absolutely. Last song you played on your iPhone.
It's I know it because it's Dua Lipa and Elton John, some combo mishmash they did together. I don't know what the name of it is. Yep, yep.
Okay,
Not
got you.
proud of it. Not proud of it. I could have lied. I'm not gonna lie.
Embrace it. Embrace it. Live your truth. uh, childhood celebrity crush. Childhood. All right. I don't want Jackie getting mad at me.
Oh, you know who I love? I have a Cheryl Swoops. I have taped with a VHS the first like WNBA game, and I was just like in love with Cheryl Swoops. She was on a couple of commercials. They promoted the heck out of her. I bought a Sports Illustrated where she was interviewed in it. Yeah, yeah, that was a
You
biggie.
didn't have her sneakers.
I was the only sports celebrity speakers I had. It was the Hakeem because he was Spalding.
Okay.
We didn't have the cash for the Jordans back in the day, so I had some nice Spalding basketball in the back that peeled off. It's great.
Shout out to the economy pick, with the with the Spalding. I like it.
Yeah,
I
the
like
two for
it.
ones. Yeah, yeah.
All right. Number four, dream vacation spot.
Cudahy. I'll go with I've wanted to like, hey, Lord of the Rings. I'm not the biggest fantasy nerd, but love Lord of the Rings. But man, the scenery in the back of those. So uh any of the Nordic countries I want to get to. Just the quality of life seems I'm always seeing them on the top of the charts for like ease of living, quality of life, and the backgrounds are incredible. So over there.
Got you. Okay. Now this is the fifth one. This might not be as rapid. All right. So your top five things to happen to Milwaukee since 2010.
Okay. We built the Bucks. We built the Pfizer.
Mhm.
We put lights on the Hoan Bridge.
There we
That's a
go.
that's a
Two.
good one. That's a good one. Um, I was gonna say streetcar, but that's pandering. I'm not gonna give it that one. Night market's cool. Night market's cool. We'll throw that one on
Cool.
there as
Yep.
well. The Grand Avenue Mall becoming the Third
Mm.
Street Market, I think, has been super transformational. Um, I was going to go the Bradford, what Bradford Beach has become these days is pretty incredible. But because I'm a member there, I'm going to go to the Milwaukee Athletic Club, the
There we go.
rebirth.
The
It's there.
rebirth.
That's where I got to hoop all the time. That's good. There's
I
too.
love.
The fortunate part about that question is too many good ones to. I feel guilty because I'm leaving way too many out. Way too
Yeah,
many out. There's
no,
a lot of good ones in
absolutely,
there.
absolutely, and you've been a part of a lot of that, So you're a gem to the city. I appreciate you, pulling up to the podcast, and just for you being you and a social architect, and just a all around good dude. Even though you talk a lot of shit, I know it all comes from a place of love. Uh, but
Are
no,
we going to
man,
tell them about your birthday party a year ago? Which direction the Home Bridge was?
no,
That was a great phone call. Thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it, and thanks for everything you do for the city and all the. You make this place shine, man. Shit, you know what I just forgot? I
what's
had
up?
an opportunity to say on your top five list. I should have been like, I procreated and I made a kid in 2020,
There we go.
and I made a child, but I forgot. I fucked that up. So just throw that in there. We'll cut it all out completely, and don't let Jackie hear it. Appreciate you, man. Thanks for the time.
No doubt, no doubt. As always, be legendary or be lost. Peace.